Welcome to the Sponsored Rider Club podcast, your guide to motorsports sponsorship. Here's your host, Josh Weesey.
Welcome to this episode of the Sponsored Rider Club podcast, which is powered by AMSOIL. Our featured guest today is none other than UTV Racer Corry Weller. Now, before we get into the interview with Corry, there's a few things I want to cover. One is our partnership with AMSOIL. We are working together to make sure that you have the right information that you need to make a good marketing decisions, good promotion decisions about yourself and your sponsors. On top of that, we are both very passionate about promoting the motorsports industry. So one example I want to give you about AMSOIL is their sponsorship of the AMSOIL Championship Snowcross Series. And one of the cool things that they have is a live stream. Now, a number of people who listen to the show also look at our live streams, which is what we do twice a month with special guests coming on the show. But you can actually stream the AMSOIL Championship Snowcross live as well. So go to snowcross.com/livestream, and when those come up, you can watch them. So I'm grateful that AMSOIL is able to support that series. One, to keep the snowmobile industry thriving, but two, so that you can get access to the live streams, which is something that maybe in the past you wouldn't have had access to. And the last little note I'll add to that is if you are a snowcross racer and there is a live stream available, this is another way for you to promote screen time or eyeballs for your sponsors. So check that out, see if you're getting screen time. I would love to get your feedback, and one of the best ways to do that is go over to iTunes, leave a rating and review. That is a great way to ensure the show can continue to exist and continue to bring on amazing guests. And then whatever podcast player you're using, go ahead and subscribe. That way you don't miss any of our upcoming guests. Our next one is going to be Moto and Dooner Nate McLean. So he rocked it out on the Dirty Dooner show. He rocked that on ours. I can't wait to get that out there for you. Now, this episode here is sponsored by SolderWeld. They produce game-changing metal bonding technology. And if you listen to this episode right after it releases, we have a giveaway running for one of their off-road repair kits. Head over to our Facebook page. You'll find that. That closes on November 30th, 2018 at 9 p.m. Eastern. So go check that out. Then TopToPodium.com. They're experts in motorsport sponsorship. Bold Racing, they're a family race team. And GSP XTV axle specialist. Neverlift Racing, they create comfortable, race-inspired apparel. Crash Addict Industries, they provide human protection and extreme racing products. I also want to give a shout-out to some of our other partners, including MBRP, HMK USA, Subboy Traction, and GSP XTV. Without further ado, let's hop in. Today I'm joined by our featured guest, Corry Weller, and honestly, it's been a while. We've been working on getting you on the show now for a couple of multiple months here. But you're here, we're making it happen. It's middle of November right now, November 15th, and we are on this call together. But that's enough about the background there. Corry, fill in the gas for the intro. Tell us a little bit about you.
Well, I am a UTV short course racer. I typically race in the Lucas Oil National Series now, Lures. I've raced in Torque as well. I've dabbled in desert. I used to be an ATV racer. I used to race quads, motocross, kind of how I got into everything. And super late bloomer. I didn't even get on anything motorized till I was about 29.
Oh, wow.
So I feel like I'm making up for a lot in my life. But yeah, and also my husband and I own Weller Racing, which is a company that specializes in performance products for the UTV industry. So it just so happens that all ties in really handily for what we do.
Yeah, you know, one thing really interesting, I've been at the past two Vegas Reno races, and I was at this last one, and we pulled into one of the pits, I think it was pit 2, and looked over, and there was one of the Weller cars was sitting on a trailer, and we're like, dang, they broke down this early, that stinks.
Oh.
No, that was just the parts car, And I was like, oh.
Spare car, yep.
Yeah, that's just the backup, just in case you break something that you don't really have, just laying around. You take it off this car. I was like, okay, I got you, that's good.
Each one of our pits had one of those. We had two chase trucks, and each chase truck had had a spare car on it. It was a
Oh,
little
right.
overkill, but
Hey, no, I don't think anything is overkill for that race. Like, honestly, I've raced with Bold Racing, and they're running a Yamaha, and they've got Weller parts on that too. And the silliest thing broke last time. We're like, no one would ever think to bring a spare one of these. Like, it's just crazy. But yeah, so a spare car, you pretty much could break anything at any point. And
yep.
yeah, so that was pretty cool. I just remember we were all like, oh no, Wellers are down right now? What happened?
They're out at pit 2.
They're out at pit 2. Everybody's like, dang, what's that mean for us? Right? And like, no, they're not. But actually, our car broke. Like I said, it was a silly thing, but we went out at pit 3, so we weren't too much further than that. But at pit 2, we were full of confidence. We were ready to win, That's good stuff. Well, that's cool. I love the late bloomer stories, honestly, because sometimes people, if they're listening to the show and they're like, well, I'm 25, there's no way I can do anything like this. I missed my prime, and then there's like you coming on, you're like, no, shoot, I don't even, no big deal, and there's other people. I remember Cynthia Gauthier, she was on here, and she's like, I didn't start touching dirt bikes till I was 18, and I think Kristen Matlock was the same way. She did some ATV racing later on, and, Jimmy Moore, he got into really big racing like in his 40s, so there's still a lot of opportunity out there.
Yeah, absolutely. Age is just a number for sure.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's good stuff. Well, I want to dig in deeper to that. I love hearing people's journey. I think it's helpful in the show to kind of build a relationship with, the guests if people don't know them. And, I feel like that happens through the journey. So tell us about that introduction. Maybe it was when you're 29, or just tell us how you got into motorsports and kind of walk us through how you got to where you're at today.
Yeah, so I grew up just, normal family. My parents both worked. I went to school, did my thing. Had some cats growing up. I had a 10-speed bike that I remember taking to like a BMX track that was kind of close to our house. And that was, what I did. And I squared out the wheels and pretty much ruined that bike trying to do cool dirt stuff. But just really never had any motorsports background whatsoever. My parents were actually really into water skiing. So I grew up my early years, probably up until I was 8, on a ski boat.
Mm-hmm.
So very opposite of dirt, you know. And I just kind of never really was able to get involved in motorsports at all until gosh, I was 29. I had my 2 kids already. I was full on into momhood and being a wife and having a job and just doing life. And kind of got into the whole motorsports thing kind of on a whim. My ex-husband and I used to go and watch Supercross.
Mm-hmm.
And I just remember being at Supercross one time being like, that looks like fun. Like, why can't I get a motorcycle? Why can't I do that? I kind of want to try that. So, got a quad actually, went to a dealership and looked around and, told them I kind of want to get in racing. They're like, oh, well, and I was like, hey, can you race these too? The 4 wheels. And they're like, yeah, sure. So, just, got, I think my first quad, and I told them I wanted to race, on the motocross track, and they sold me a Warrior, a Yamaha Warrior.
Yep, I know those.
This was great, which is definitely not a motocross quad.
Yeah, I wouldn't have expected that, but that's fine. You got to start somewhere.
Yeah, and it just so happens that one of my first trips out on that, again, no experience, was at the dunes. We went to Glamis with some friends of ours that had been going for like 20 years. Thank goodness they knew what they were doing. But so I kind of just got thrown in, like, new quad, at the dunes. I had no idea what I was doing, and I really, really learned the hard way. I remember somehow I whiskey throttled all the way up to the top of Patton, and I just remember everybody standing at the top of Patton looking around, talking, and feeling so wonderful and how pretty it is. And I'm, like, terrified. I'm so terrified that my legs were shaking, and I was afraid people would be able to see that.
Yeah.
Because I had no idea how I was going to get back down. I was like, I was horrified at how high we were and how steep the sand was. And, but I was so embarrassed. I couldn't ask somebody to ride my quad down there for me. So I wound up doing it myself. And I literally just got all the way back to Ogilvie by just locking onto the person in front of me and just trying to mimic everything they did. And you just kind of have to cut your brain off and just do it.
Yeah.
So I got back to camp, and it turns out that after that weekend, by the time Sunday rolled around, I was 100% in love with the dunes, with motorsports, with the quad. It was the most adrenaline I'd ever experienced, and I was 100% hooked. It was like the strongest drug ever.
Yeah.
And I loved it. I loved the thought of being on that quad, and so that took me to the motocross track, because at the time I was going through a difficult point in my relationship, my first marriage, and I just kind of needed to get away a little bit and just try to de-stress and just have something to take my mind off of all the stuff that was going on at home. So I wanted to ride my quad, and I thought the safest place to do that would be at a track, because if something were to happen, I'm by myself, at least there's people around that might be able to help me. So, long story short, I wound up Googling where I can ride and what tracks were around, and wound up at Speed World in the West Valley here. And that was where I first hit the track. And, again, kind of one of those things where I had no idea what I was doing. I was a little terrified, but yet at the same time, it was so exciting, and absolutely fell in love with jumping and, trying not to fall off. And from then on, I wound up being at the track every weekend. Any weekend I could get, I would go out there by myself, and I would just ride, and I met people. And, once you're out there, people are like, oh, you should try racing. And I'm like, yes.
Right.
So it just all developed, and turns out I was pretty decent at it. And that combined with the fact that I absolutely just loved doing it, pretty much started me out in this whole journey.
No, that's awesome. So what ultimately got you into the UTV scene?
So the UTV scene came about 6 years later.
Okay.
So in that 6 years, I had gone through with my divorce, and again, racing sort of saved me through a lot of things. And I had met Jason. Actually, he was one of the guys I raced against.
Oh, okay.
And in our group, as quad racers, in motocross, anybody who's done this will know, we're kind of like the redheaded stepchildren. So we all tend to hang out together and pit together, and we're friends. We're just kind of drawn together. And so he was always in the group that we all hung out together. And I met him. We would race against each other, and we were friends for probably a year before we actually, got together. But so we've always just known each other racing. And we hung out for about a year together, at the races and stuff before we got together. But so we wound up racing motocross pretty consistently. Like, we raced local races. We would go and race the ITP Quad Cross Series. And we were both moving up through the classes and getting better and faster. And, starting to kind of get into this whole sponsorship deal that we're going to talk about. And we actually just started Weller Racing in 2006. And we had been asked to come out to a core race by one of our customers, because we were actually doing some things on their Rhino that they were racing at the time in that UTV class. So, and at the time they had like 20 UTVs. It was great. And they were Rhinos because the Razor hadn't come out yet. The Terex hadn't come out yet. So there was all these Rhinos out there. And I just remember walking up to the fence, and the trucks were out on the track. And I was, again, that feeling, you just get this feeling in your chest the first time you see something like that and hear that horsepower and all the dirt in your face. And I was absolutely fascinated by it. And then here comes the UTVs, and I was like, you can race these out here. It's like motocross, but you're in a cage.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, there's so many people here. It's so cool. And that was kind of a whole intro into short course racing. And it's the funny thing is our first UTV that we built for racing, we actually built to race in the desert, because we watched Dust to Glory a bunch.
Yeah.
That movie is probably responsible for so many people getting into desert racing.
Oh, yeah. I wouldn't be surprised in the slightest.
And so we built our first Rhino. We decided the Rhinos were too slow in the desert. They weren't making checkpoints, so we needed to put a faster motor, and we built the Super Rhino. So it was a 450 that we brought home, stripped down, and put a street bike motor in. And that was our first actual race Rhino that we took out to, the Rhino Nationals here in Casa Grande. And then our first desert race was the Parker 250.
Okay.
I think back in 2006. So that was our first time out into the whole UTV racing world.
That's pretty cool. I wish that I could go back in time and pay attention to the UTV race scene just kicking in. I would love to see rhinos just like everywhere racing, because now nobody would ever consider that, right? Nobody's like, I'm gonna take my Rhino and just rip it. Everybody's like, no, you gotta have my Razor, or my YXZ, or my X3. I wish I could go back in time and just capture that moment.
Yeah, there's a lot of OGs still racing, especially like in desert. That were out there in those Rhinos when they first came out, and they weren't making checkpoints because you can only go so fast in a single cylinder 660. So it was quite the experience, and it has just progressed so much over the last 10 years. It's insane what the UTV classes have gone to now.
Yeah. There's a number of industries, right, over the past 15, 20 years that have just blown things away. Social media, I think, has been crazy how that's taken off, and some of the automotive stuff, especially with the connectivity, I think has just really taken off. But the UTV scene, and actually snowmobiles too, it's hard to compete with how things used to be compared to where they're at now. I mean, a car, right? It still functioned pretty much the same. Your capabilities were pretty much the same 15, 20 years ago. There's nice little enhancements now, but 15, 20 years ago, the UTV was your Honda Pilot, right? That's about it. And
Odyssey.
Yeah, that's what I meant. Honda Pilot's an SUV. Honda Odyssey. That's what you had. And just to see how far it's gone, it's completely different. I guess the other thing is probably cell phones. Cell phones are pretty wild too, but UTVs are up there with some pretty crazy changes in the world.
Well, they are, and depending on the manufacturer, I mean, it's almost like cell phones in that you buy something that's up to date, and 6 months later, there's a new model, and you're now, out of date.
Yeah,
well, you got to buy up once a year.
And that's got to make the whole sponsorship journey that much more of a challenge, because you're competitive, 1 year or maybe less than 1 year. And everybody else is entering this market with their new upgrades and hop-ups, and you're like, wow, in order to compete, I got to keep dumping money into this. And you're like, I've run out of money, And I think that just makes it even more important.
It does. I mean, racing, anything is expensive. Racing, something that is constantly evolving in a market like ours is probably even more of a challenge, because you do always have to grow, and it's just, you can never just kind of maintain. You always, if you want to succeed at it and you want to win races and you want to win championships, you always have to be one step ahead. And this market is just ever changing, and it's so fluid that that in itself is such a huge challenge, just to try to keep up with the industry itself, let alone keep up with funds and racing budgets, and even be able to plan it half the time is so much work.
Right. Well, are we at the present day yet, or is there anything else you need to cover to get to where you're at today?
Oh gosh, let's see. Now we're almost at present day. At least we got into the UTV industry portion.
Yeah, yep, that's good.
So let's see. So from our first desert race, which is funny because when we went out, my husband's brother was my co-driver at the time, because my husband and I have never really been able to ride together very well.
Oh yeah.
Still can't. So we always have different co-drivers. And we went out, and I had literally just got the suspension in the mail for this Rhino, and hadn't had any chance to test it or anything. We didn't even have, gosh, I think we had one spare tire. We had no spares or anything when we went and did this. Super soft suspension. It was so bad that I would bottom out everywhere. So we had to go really slow in a lot of places. Parker is full of whoops. So anywhere where there was whoops, we had to just be really careful. And I just remember there was like 19 of us in our class. I think I was in Sportsman UTV. And probably in the first 10 miles, half of our class had already broken. Mm-hmm. And I think we won the race because we were literally, it was a tortoise in the hare.
Yeah.
And we were the tortoise.
Yep.
So we just couldn't go fast enough to break anything.
Right,
so,
right.
And then like literally right after that, you know, we got the short course bug, and that was kind of where we were, I think, predetermined to go anyway because of our motocross background, and got into core in a pretty stock Rhino. It was, I think I did a roll cage, and you could do some clutch springs. I was in super stock, and I raced with Luke Johnson. I raced against him.
Nice.
And, yeah, we did that for about half of a season because we came into that season really late. That was 2007. 2008, we decided to get serious and build me a pro UTV so I could enter the pro UTV class in core. And we did, and basically, you know, you could kind of widen your chassis, and you could do motor mods, which was, again, our business. Mm-hmm. And we came up with this great little Rhino, and I went and ripped it in core that year, and against a pretty huge field, and had a lot of learning to do, and my lines were terrible. But I was I'm pretty tenacious, and I wanted to master it. I wanted to be so good at it. And so, you know, we'd have bad races, and we'd have good races, and I'd wreck it, and we just kept plugging at it. And that year turned into lures the following year. And again, still in the UTV classes, we actually built the SR1 class, which street bike engines in Rhinos on the short course. So I went through a couple years of that in lures. And regionals, Lucas basically took the UTVs and put them all in the regional series and took them out of the national series. So we've been in the regional series here in Arizona and California. I was in Pro 4 for 3 years. In that interim, Lures just picked up UTVs again last year. Torque actually picked up UTVs the year before. I went and raced a Yamaha YXZ that first year in Torque and won the Torque Championship. So once UTVs kind of came back into the national spotlight, things really began taking off for us. So it's been a really good couple of years, and I don't see it slowing down anytime at all. You know, Jason races now too, so now there's 2 of us racing, mm-hmm. So things have gotten super busy.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where we are currently. We are racing a whole bunch and running the business, and that's taken up every spare second we have, basically.
Yeah, that makes pretty good sense. Anything else, though, that's going on right now that you're super fired up about?
Well, so it's the end of the season. So our 2018 season has just wrapped up literally like a couple weeks ago. I won the new Lures added a production turbo class this year. So I jumped in on that, and that was a blast. Won that championship, won the Lucas Oil Regional Championship. Whoop, whoop. And right now, just really looking forward. You know, there's no sitting around. You have to start making plans right away for 2019.
Yeah.
So we're in that phase. You know, SEMA's over, and that's where you do a lot of networking. And we're just, you know, full blown into making plans for 2019 and figuring out what we're going to do, which series we're going to run. We have to wait for series rules to come out and schedules and get with sponsors, get with new sponsors and old sponsors. And right now we're at that point where it's that transitionary phase where we got to figure out our game plan for 2019.
Yeah, no, that's perfect. I actually wanted to get caught up too on who your current sponsors are right now.
Yeah, so I always have the best sponsors, but I've had I do. I'm so lucky in that, when you're in the game long enough, you just over time you develop these relationships and you have sponsors, some of them you keep for so long. And then again, in a fluid industry, you also tend to get a lot of new sponsors because things are ever changing. So Dragonfire Racing, and it's funny. So people assume that because we own all the racing that our business sponsors me and us, but it doesn't actually.
Huh.
I
assume that too. Business. Yeah, I assume that too.
No. I actually have to get way back in core. Jason told me, Corey, if you want to race this next year, you have to get sponsors.
Yeah.
We cannot pay for you to race. And, ever since then, and that was back in, 2008, every year I find sponsors. If I want to race, that's what I do. I have to make sure I can get the support to do it, just like everybody else does.
Mm-hmm.
So, Dragonfire Racing has been a title sponsor for us for a couple of years now. They're a huge part of why we can do what we do. And they're right down the street from us, which is really cool.
Oh.
So we tend to work with them quite a bit. Yeah, and they do, UTV accessories. So it's a fantastic fit. It's super organic. It's I buy their stuff anyway, so it makes sense. That they would come on board with us. Full Throttle Battery has been fantastic this year. They came on in a really big way. Again, with two of us racing and all of the races that we race a lot of races every year. That's a pretty big budget to fill, and Full Throttle came in this year. They do basically specific batteries for OEM vehicles, which is great again for our industry. So they'll build us what we want for say a Yamaha YXZ or a Maverick X3, and it's a drop-in battery that is way stronger than the factory battery. So they've been fantastic. We actually they've loved getting into this industry. This was the first year for them with us, and it was a great year. So we're talking about next year again already. Lucas Oil. You can't talk about racing without knowing who Lucas Oil is and knowing that, they are such a huge part of why we even have short course racing still.
Yeah. Yep.
So, thankfully Forrest loves racing. He loves off-road. Lucas Oil Racing TV is a relatively new app that came out a couple of years ago that Lucas Oil owns and produced and created, where you can watch racing 24/7. It's got fantastic. They do a really good job. Like they do live coverage of a lot of racing, not just short course or off-road, but a lot of different types of racing. Sprint car racing and circle track and drag boats. So they have an app where you can go on and literally just watch the stuff, and it's like TV production. It's fantastic coverage live online. So they've actually been a sponsor of ours and mine for a couple years now. So again, a huge part of our program and why we can do what we do. And just having their name on board with our team just adds a lot of credibility to our program as well. Let's see, I've Maxxis tires forever. I've won every championship I've won on Maxxis tires.
Oh wow, that's pretty cool.
Yeah. So from the get-go, and that was one of my very first sponsorships, I think, because I was buying them anyway. And again, that's kind of, we'll get into that probably later, but that's a really true, genuine way to get a sponsorship is if you're already using a product that you believe in and you believe in it, you're buying it. It's such an organic relationship. It's such an organic, easy sell to anybody. You want to talk about products that work well for you. And it's just I don't want to say an easy sell, but it is, anybody that talks to me about, why do you run this? Or, why do you have them as a sponsor? Well, they make a fantastic product. Let's talk about it.
Right. Right.
So those are my natives. I have a lot of people that have helped and companies that step in, and I probably have 20 sponsors, that over the period of the last couple of years we've built up this great team. Weller Racing in a way does sponsor us because, we do a lot of our race prep at our shop.
Right.
We do develop our products that we sell in the industry. We develop them because we need them in racing, and we test them in racing, and we sell them because it's something that's worked for us. And it just makes sense that we would sell that to our customers. So in that way, yes, Weller Racing also is a part of our program. Demon axles, gosh, Fox shocks. I love Fox shocks. AIM dashes. They've been great. Those guys are fantastic. So data logging is a really big deal. At the level that we're at in this industry and this type of racing, as well as a lot of other types of racing out there. The more data you can get, the better. Just, teaches you what you can do better, what you're not doing so well.
That's something we have not talked about that in the show before, surprisingly. Data logging.
Really?
Yeah.
Really?
I'm shocked myself. So I work in a test environment. So it's a proving grounds where I work at and for my day job, and that's all we do is data logging, right?
Yeah.
And I can't believe we've never brought it up in the show before.
Oh, it's fantastic. And AIM has some really great products that not only do they have a great product, but they have a huge presence at the races. So they're just, I don't know how these guys do it. They're at all the races we're at. I know they're at a whole bunch more. So not only do you get the benefit of the products that they're developing, and they're developing it at a pretty quick rate, like they're kind of keeping up with all of the needs of their drivers, which is great because that doesn't always happen. But again, they're there for support too. So I've got to give a huge shout out to AIM as well. So we've got a ton of companies that are with us currently and that have been with us in the past that have gotten us to the point that we're at right now.
Oh, perfect. Well, that's good stuff, and that's always the way I like to transition into Heat 2, and that's where we get into more of the details around the sponsorship. But before we get there, I just want to take a minute to thank the sponsors for this podcast. Family Race Team. Those are the first words that come to mind when I think of Bold Racing. And the next one is actually axles. Bold Racing is a premier distributor of GSP XTV axles. And if that wasn't cool enough, they just came out with an entirely new axle called the Revolution axle. It is a hollow tube axle. It's really cool. If you head over to their website, gspxtv.com, or you can find out more at boldracingltd.com, you can find out how this new axle technology works. So they are saying to view this as a fuse for your drivetrain. So the hollow tube CV axle twist technology actually increases the strength and reliability of the axle, and it also reduces stress on the drivetrain. Plus, honestly, it's super cool looking, and if people know me, they know that I really like cool looking stuff. So they come in this really cool gold color. Check it out. It's absolutely revolutionary. 2 questions I get continuously about this show and about sponsorship is, do I need my own website and do I need a resume? The answer is, in my opinion, yes to both, and that's why we partner with TopThePodium.com. Now, if you want to see an example of what a professional website and what a professional resume looks like, you got to check out TopThePodium.com. They did my website. The Sponsored Rider Club podcast website is sponsoredriderclubpodcast.com. That was created by Jeff Vanistall of TopThePodium.com. I think it's awesome. I get a lot of good feedback about it. And there's a number of other websites out there that Jeff has produced that are just phenomenal. So I think it's important in this world of social media where you have control of your content. That's what a website does. It gives you full control. We don't know what Facebook's going to do sometimes. We don't know what Instagram's going to do. We don't know what Twitter's going to do. So if we don't have that central location to direct people and house our content, there is some risk that we incur. So I strongly recommend getting a website, talking to TopThePodium.com. And then the resume, again, is massive. And if you want to stand out, get it done professionally. And honestly, it is one of the best ways to step up your game and present yourself in the best way possible.
What's up, everyone? This is Mike Pasquarella, founder of Desert Vets Racing. When the team goes racing, we always have our SolderWeld products with us. Keeping the cars in the fight is our number one concern. With SolderWeld, we can do that. SolderWeld is a leading company in the U.S. for aluminum repair. They specialize in radiator repair on the fly. If you're stuck in the middle of the trail or a race with a hole in your radiator, oil pan, or canister, or even an aluminum line, you can fix it right then and there in a matter of minutes with their AMSOIL aluminum repair rods and flux. It's the only complete and lasting fix in the off-road community. SolderWeld's new UTV off-road kits fit in every ride and are easy to access on the fly.
SolderWeld continues to make a huge positive impact on this industry. So I really encourage you, get in there now. Go to SolderWeld.us, check out their products, because this stuff is changing the game. Safety is our overriding priority. I hear it all the time, but I have to ask myself, is it though? Is that the first thing we think of? Is that the first thing you think of? Over the past couple of years, we've seen the performance of production UTVs increase, somewhere around 350%. That means these machines give us a lot more opportunity to have fun and win races, but it also, unfortunately, gives us new opportunities to crash. And that's why we have partnered with Crash Addict Industries. The owner, Travis Pointer, became very accustomed to crashing early in his career. He saw it as inevitable, and he set out to make the process safer. With a passion for racing, welding, and engineering, Crash Addict Industries now produces full cage and other protection systems intentionally designed to protect you during an accident on the track. They also offer a line of human protection products through their vendors. Do this for me at this point. If you're racing with a stock cage right now, please go check out CrashAddict.com and at least just see what they have to offer. Even if you choose to go with a different company, please make safety your overriding priority. Look, I'm sorry, but I gotta admit something. I like to look cool. I like to wear high quality clothing. I like it to be comfortable, and I also like it to portray the values that I also hold true to myself. That's why I like Neverlift Racing. So they were founded in 2013, and they are all about high quality, comfort, and looking cool. So, like I said before, exactly what I'm looking for out of clothing. Admittedly, my favorite shirt of all time is the Neverlift Racing Silver Badge t-shirt. Like, I wear this thing probably too often because way too many pictures of me on social media are wearing this shirt. Either way, they have a ton more out there. So go get your shirt, your hoodie, your hat, and actually your socks. Probably one of the most comfortable pair of socks I've ever owned too. And they got pretty cool things where it says never on one side, lift on the other. Really cool stuff. Get your apparel. Wear something that supports your values. Live fast, drive hard, Neverlift Racing. All right, well, welcome back, everybody. We are now in Heat 2. We get into a little bit of the nitty-gritty stuff right now about the sponsorship. Heat 1, build a relationship, get the background. Heat 2, figure out, the true advice. Let's get your pens out, get your notepads out. Unless you're driving, don't do that. Focus on driving. But yeah, let's get into the good stuff here. So I really like to walk through examples of how relationships are built, and sometimes that means how you made contact with a sponsor. Sometimes that means how you took it to the quote-unquote next level with a sponsor, or how do you maintain it? And like you said with Maxxis, you've been with them forever, so there's something that you're doing to maintain that relationship. So let's kind of walk through a couple examples of that.
Yeah, so like we'll start with Maxxis, I guess, because they were one of my first what I consider like a true sponsor.
Mm-hmm.
And again, it was kind of one of those things where tires are important, obviously, and when you're first kind of starting out in racing, you don't have a very big budget. You don't have you don't have a lot to spend on tires and spare parts and things like that. So you tend to just kind of wear your tires out,
yeah.
like run them forever. And, and I always liked the Maxxis because I felt like I could run them and run them and run them, and I wouldn't get flats, and I'd still have tread on them. And, they would last forever for me. And, when I had the regular rhinos, they were great for short course. I'm trying to remember what I ran back then. I think it was the Bighorn, like the original Bighorn.
Yep.
Was just such a good all around beefy tire that you could run forever, and it would still look like it was brand new. So, when we developed the SR1, we were running the Bighorns originally on those, and then I remember seeing, I don't remember if I saw it at SEMA or in a catalog or something, I saw the Maxxis Seraph.
Mm-hmm.
And honestly, I bought that tire because it looked awesome.
Yeah.
It just looked good.
That's how I make all my tire decisions. That's like, does it look cool?
My decisions.
Yeah, I don't care about. Yeah, I guess probably that's how I make all my decisions. But yeah, sorry.
Form over function.
Right, exactly.
And plus it was kind of square. It was like the first UTV tire I had seen that looked sort of like our motocross tires on quads. It had a square profile, and I'm like, I'm going to try this on my SR1. It just looks good anyway. So, and the SR1s were kind of its own little unique beast, 2-wheel drive, really high horsepower, lots of wheel spin. And these were directional, and, they touted that, hey, it gives you more of a straight line trajectory on acceleration. So, I bought them and tried them and absolutely loved them. And, that just so happened we were doing really good in the SR1 class, and they were good in the mud, and they were good in the dirt, and they were good in the dry slick, and there was literally like nothing they couldn't do. So I was just in love with Ceros. So that's what I ran all the time on my car. And, like I said, I would buy them and stuff. And then there comes a time where you just need to try and get a tire sponsor. You're going through more and more tires as you get more competitive, and the fresher the rubber, the better grip, and the better you're going to do in your race. So I remember, I'm trying to remember who this was back. Anybody that's been at Maxxis knows who Heather Avery is. She was like my person at Maxxis forever. And I think I had met her online or something via email through somebody who had referred me. Anyway, long story short, told her I loved them. I was going to buy them anyway. But if they're sponsoring anybody and, they felt like sponsoring somebody in short course, it would be a great relationship. And that's kind of how we started. So it's not slow. Discounts are a big thing. I would get discounts, and, any money I could save on tires, I could put in other places in my program. And it just kind of went from there. And, we did really good that first year. We did really good the next year. And we just started racking up the championships and the wins. And, obviously Maxxis was happy, and we were stoked. And it was just a really good relationship, all the way from the beginning. So you can't do much better. Plus, I'm in a unique position in that I also get to sell what I run. So it's kind of, I feel like maybe we get to offer a little bit more maybe than someone who doesn't necessarily have a lot of interaction with customers, in that my customers typically want to buy what works for me and what I believe in. And so therefore I also get to, on the flip side, literally sell that product to customers. So, I like to think that maybe the ROI on our end of it has a little bit extra facet than people that maybe don't have a business and aren't able to do that. So we've definitely, we've seen the sales for Ceros just skyrocket over the last couple of years, and for a good reason. They're a fantastic tire, but Maxxis in general just makes a phenomenal product. So it's been a really fun sponsorship, because it is something I truly believe they have just such a great product, and it's just so easy to talk about it to people, and get people excited about it.
Yeah, and there's a lot that can be said for making the decision to sell product that you run. There's a number of companies out there that are open to that sort of thing, right? And especially nowadays with, how relatively easy it is to set up, say, like an online, sales website, and there's a lot of opportunities for drop shipping, and, you can get warehouses, and you can get storage outsourced. It's becoming more easy to access that type of, I guess, distribution option. And it's a nice benefit, Hey, I run this, I race it. Guess what? Won a championship. Been running these tires for a long time. You tell me what tire you want after that, right? You're like, okay, that's the one I want. And guess what? I can get it to you right now. Or you want to do this deal now? Yeah, okay, great, done. And there's like people, if you're listening, that is something that you have access to. Yeah, some parts are going to be more complicated than others. Some products are more complicated than others. But there is options, no doubt, for being able to sell the stuff that you use.
Yep. Yeah, for sure. And that's kind of, again, that all kind of goes into the whole, hey, if you believe in a product, it's a natural thing to want to get a relationship with that product and that company, because the whole reason for a sponsorship, the whole reason a company sponsors you is to sell product.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just, you can get that whole trifecta going. It's a great thing.
Yeah. Jimmy Moore, who's been on this show before, and he sponsors a show too with Bold Racing. He runs GSP XTV axles, and he sells them too. He's one of the distributors, and that's a great relationship for them. And there's a number of other examples out there of people that do that. So I think it's a good topic, and it's a nice little bonus feature that if you can go to somebody and say, hey, not only can I run it and test it, but I can be one of your distributors as well.
Yep.
So I think that's good. That's a good option.
For sure.
Well, cool. So that was Maxxis. Any other ones that you'd want to kind of share with us?
Oh gosh, let's see. So HJC.
Mm-hmm.
I don't. They're no longer a sponsor of mine, but they were a sponsor of mine for a long time for helmets.
Yep.
And the Maxxis side of it is one way I got a sponsor. HJC was just sheer. I remember this was back in core, and I think I had just gotten into the Pro UTV class. The second year we raced short course, and actually had like my Pro UTV. And I think I had gone through a couple races and was making myself known a little bit in the series itself. I think I'd gotten some good results, and people were starting to pay attention. And I remember I was at my little white enclosed trailer, and this tall guy comes walking up with a helmet bag,
mm-hmm.
an HJC helmet bag, and I was like, "Oh hi!" And he's like, "Hey, it's Corry here," and I'm like, "Yeah, it's me." He's like, "Well, I have a helmet here." And, he basically, they wanted to sponsor me, and he had a helmet already for me, wanted to see if it would fit, and wanted to see if I wanted to work with them, and literally a sponsorship just walked into my pit. So, and I learned something about, early on, companies look for different things.
Yeah.
They expect different things from a sponsored driver. Some companies look for marketability. Most companies do, but some companies, that's really all they care about is marketing, and will you be able to market this product, and is there something unique about you that now will get our brand name out. Some companies want performance. They want results. They're all about wins and championships and racking up that kind of a history and reputation for their brand. And HJC, I didn't really have any of that yet. I hadn't won any races or anything, but I think just because I was unique in that class, I think I was the only girl racing in that class. So I learned kind of early on that any type of uniqueness that kind of sets you apart from others, no matter what that is, it can be very attractive to companies. It is just that little bit edge in marketability. And HJC was great because they actually, wound up using me in a lot like catalogs and ads
mm-hmm.
and really cool stuff like that. They actually use that sponsorship in other ways as well. So it was a really cool, fun relationship for me. It was an early sponsorship that I was really proud of and just really enjoyed. Plus, it was a great product. I didn't know enough about helmets at the time to know how good of a helmet the HJC was, but obviously I learned that over the years that I was with them. But so that's just another example of how that can happen. But I was just kind of walked right into my pit.
Yeah, that's pretty wild. Even the fact that they came over there like this helmet, like we purposely are bringing it to you right now. Like they had it in their hand. That's pretty interesting.
In their hand, and it was the right size.
Yeah, that's pretty wild.
I don't even know how they did that.
So
yeah.
there's something that you were doing that they, were attracted to, but do you know why? Like, did you ever find out why they walked up to your pit that day with a custom helmet fit just for you?
Gosh, I don't know if I've ever, so it was Kyle Egan who worked with HJC for a long time, and I'd have to ask him. I still keep in touch with him, but, I don't know. Like I said, maybe they felt sorry for me because I had a really ugly helmet. I don't know. I don't even remember what I had at that time. I know it was probably the cheapest helmet I could buy, and it probably weighed like 40 pounds.
Yeah.
So maybe they just felt sorry for me.
Hey, sometimes that stuff works. It's funny.
Yeah, I'll take it.
So on my desk, I always have like some sort of helmet. I've got a bunch of them, MX and snowmobile helmets, and I swap them out every now and then for my live show, so there's a little bit different helmet in the background. But a lot of ones that I have, especially my dirt helmets, were HJC. So the one in front of me right now is HJC too. So I've actually been a fan of their helmets for quite some time. And actually, a lot of my family has run HJC. They're pretty popular, at least in the Midwest, for consumer or like trail riders. ATV, UTV, snowmobile trail riders. They're very popular.
Yeah, they're a good price point. It's a good quality helmet, and they just at the time back in, I think that was 2008, they were there was not a lot of off-road kind of specific helmets, but I remember that one had, it already had the air port for the pumper. So back at the time, they introduced me to Doug Jensen, and he was making these visors, motocross visors that would fit on these HJC helmets. So, and it was great because I was still really fresh into motocross, and so anybody with an HJC helmet, like I had one, I want to say like Carl Rennesener had one, I know Brian Deegan had a visor for a while. So a lot of us liked the visor style because you got a little bit of protection from the sun, but honestly, it just looked good.
Yeah.
So I was really excited about that too. That was kind of one of those things that set that helmet apart from a lot of the other helmets that were out there. It just style-wise, it was a good-looking helmet.
That's the legit reason why I ran the Arctic Cat snowmobile helmet for years, because it had a little visor on it. I was like, this looks way cooler than no visor. Like, why would I not have a visor on my snowmobile helmet now? It's actually funny though. The one I have, I'm looking at it as well because for whatever reason I like to have helmets out. I'm pretty excited about them. My new one doesn't have a visor on it. Now I'm kind of bummed about it. Kind of bummed.
You know what? Mine doesn't either.
Yeah.
But I'm just kind of the ease of being able to switch out my shield. Because the visor was always attached to my lens.
Yeah.
Has pretty much, I think I'm just getting lazy, and so now I don't wear a visor. I don't run one. I run, I have an Impact carbon fiber helmet now, so I'm learning about the lightweight and the ease of switching out. I probably change my face shield like once every race now.
Yeah.
So.
Yep. One thing I wanted to call out a little bit was going back to a comment you made where some sponsors look for performance, some sponsors look for marketability, and that's that was a pretty good summary. I like that. I'm going to steal that and probably use it more on these shows. But for people listening, what I want you to do with that information is ask your sponsors that question. Like, what are you after? Are you looking for marketability? Are you looking for performance? If it's somebody, let's say, I'm gonna put this out there for GSP XTV axles. I don't know if this is actually their strategy or not, but I'm just going to throw it out there as an example. They might say, I want to put, the new Revolution axle on a podium because we want to prove that these axles can hold up to whatever the hardest things are, like the harshest environment, right? So they might say, I'm specifically looking for performance, which means they're going to probably want to target people that are likely to win so that they can prove that. And so that's one thing, but you could also, I'll use GSP XTV as another example. You could go to them and say, they might say, hey, look, we're really just interested in having someone represent our company that's in alignment with our values because we want to improve the value of our brand. We want to be able to connect better with our customers. We're not worried as much right now about proving the performance with a podium finish. But you can ask those questions and start understanding better where people's heads are at.
Those are super important, actually. And you'll find, too, like, and every company is a little bit different, and that's something that I've learned to try to do is before I even approach a company, you want to learn first you want to learn where they started from, where they're at currently in their business growth. If it's a brand new company, who's just looking to get a logo seen by as many people as they can because they're fresh and they just, they need to get eyes on that logo. Or if it's a company that's been around for a while, maybe they've switched marketing strategies and they're trying to revamp their brand. But yeah, every company definitely has a specific place that they're at that time, and they're looking for something different. Not every company's looking for the same thing. They're all just a little bit different. So it is really important to kind of ask those questions and find out what's important to them, because that's ultimately what we need to know. We've got to find out what's important to them and then see if we're a fit for that. What if you're not really even a fit for that company? Then find a company that you align much better with, or that what you're doing currently, is going to help them. And the pieces need to fit really well to make a really easy sponsorship. And one that'll last for a long time. Because those are the ones that tend to last. Those really easy, comfortable sponsorships where everybody's almost naturally getting and giving what they need are the ones that last year after year after year.
Oh, yeah, definitely. This actually is reminding me of a show from a long time ago. This is 100+ episodes ago. Brent Lee came on, and he was talking about how he positions himself as like high-end, product marketing, meaning he targets whatever the highest price point products are. So, for example, let's go back to the helmet thing. Impact helmets, carbon fiber, like that's targeting the higher end helmet market. If you're just tooling around on, in your UTV in a backyard, you're not, like, especially in Midwest where you don't have as much silt and dust and stuff, you're not going to be going for the high end impact helmet with a Parker pumper connected to it. It's just not it, But if that's where you ride, and that's the way, or like if you ride in a desert and you have a high-end vehicle, like Impact might not be interested in you. Okay, you're fitting our target market here, right? Whereas, like for me, for example, I'm doing a lot of Midwest, some trail stuff. Like, I don't necessarily need the highest end stuff, So maybe HJC is there, right? They still got the quality, and they got the price point though is more in alignment with how I might market myself.
Right.
So there's a lot of different little things that go into that. Especially, okay, I'm getting off on a tangent here, but it's still valuable. If you think about your whole package that way, like let's say, you're running whatever the highest price point helmet is. Well, are you running now the cheapest possible seatbelts? The restraints, like it. Because if so, you're not really lining up with your values there, because you're saying, oh, I gotta definitely protect my head here with the highest quality, high end stuff. But yeah, whatever, these other things, like they're low end, it's budget focused marketing, like no big deal, it's just safety, and but that doesn't necessarily line up. So I feel like if you pick one, you gotta roll with that. Like one of my buddies, he has a company, and it's called Insufficient Funds Off-Road. Like his, right?
Awesome.
It's so cool, right? And it's going to connect with a lot of people, right?
Yeah.
But he's not going to go out to SEMA and sell at SEMA, because those people are like, no, I'm here to create whatever the highest quality show vehicle is. He's going to go out to the swap meets, and he's going to go out to the the 4x4 rallies and say, like, look, I can get you budget-friendly stuff that you're going to be able to install yourself, and you're going to be able to, if it breaks, you replace it. But, like, that's what the market is. If he tried to sell this other stuff that's, like, super high-end, nobody's going to buy it. They don't want it.
Right.
I don't know. Okay, I'm done with that for a minute. I just wanted to kind of get that off my shoulders there. Okay, so we talked about when things went well with a sponsor. Do you have an example of things when things didn't go well with a sponsor? And we don't have to share the names, but.
I definitely, gosh, I have one story, in particular, probably that I'll never forget. So kind of going hand in hand with back, when I first started racing short course with Corry, And 2008 was that first year that I was in a pro UTV class, and I hadn't been on the podium at all. Like, I was still kind of, figuring things out and getting faster, but I hadn't made it. It was a huge class, so I hadn't made it on the podium yet. And I had a suspension sponsor. It was a good sponsorship. At that time, like I said, just getting product sponsorship discounts was great. But this was like a full-on suspension sponsorship. Yeah. And they were new with me that year, and so like gung-ho and really good people. And I was really excited because it was kind of one of my first, like, what I considered like a real sponsorship. And I wound up on the podium. I think I got third. So it was my very first podium ever in short course. And it was at Corps. So it's a big deal. You get on the podium in front of all these people, and it's just, oh my gosh, I was shaking. I was like, I got really stupid. I literally just, I don't know if I got stage fright or what, but I was not ready to be on a podium. I hadn't mentally ever put myself there. Yeah. When you win in motocross and stuff, like, I don't even think we had podiums. You just got trophies, at home. So, I hadn't really mentally even prepared to be on that podium. And, I just remember having a blank and not really knowing what to say. And I think I bumbled through a couple thank yous. Yeah. And, I was like, my throat was all tight, and I literally just was like almost horrified, but so excited at the same time. It was a very strange feeling. And, got off the podium, and I had my trophy, and I was so excited, and went back to the trailer. And then Jason comes in, and he's like, "Did you forget somebody?" And I was like, just like my heart sank. I got so sick to my stomach, and I realized I had totally forgotten to mention them on my first podium. It was such a big deal. Yeah. I know they were there watching, and I was in tears. I think I burst into tears because I knew exactly what had happened, and I felt so horrible, and I knew they were probably going to be so mad, and it was such a vivid. I still remember everything about it and how terrible I felt, and I felt like the worst sponsored person ever, and would they keep sponsoring me, I would expect them to drop me. You know what I mean? It just was like, I apologized for it, I think, for a couple of days. But what I did learn is, ever since then, I would take a business card or a piece of paper, and no matter if I thought I was going to be terrible in it, I literally just expected from that day forward that I would be on the podium. And if I was going to be on the podium again, I was not going to forget my sponsors. Yeah. And so I would write down, this was my ritual, every time I went in my car, I would write down on the back of a business card, because it was a good size, I could hold it in my hand, nobody could see it, all of my sponsors. And I would put it in my pocket of my race suit. And I got really good at the whole, I get on the podium, and I just kind of have my hand in my pocket, and then at some point it'd come out, and I could hold the little business card behind the trophy. And, I assumed not a lot of people knew that I was doing that. But for years and years and years, I didn't forget one time to do that because of that, one race that I forgot them. So, that was a huge lesson for me. And I've still done that. I think this is the first year where I have felt confident enough that I wouldn't forget my sponsors to not do that. It's been since 2008, every single race that I've done that.
Wow, that's pretty incredible. Yeah, that's good to know, though.
It's a big deal. You got to thank your sponsors. It's the one time you're up there, and that's a really, really big deal. So.
And I think it's helpful that you shared that too, for two reasons. One, it's a good tip, right? But two, like, people know, especially anybody who's followed you before, they know that you've gotten comfortable with the podium spot, right? And I think it's good for people to see, like, yeah, she still has to think about this. Like, she has her own strategy to make sure that this doesn't go wrong again. That's just like my wife told me about this, because I get nervous. I don't get too nervous anymore for these types of, like, the non-live interviews, the audio interviews, but I get nervous for live ones still. I've only done maybe 19 shows or something like that, but I still get nervous, like really nervous for those. And my wife was telling me that Beyonce, she like either throws up or gets like the shakes before every performance. I'm like, what? She's like the symbol
so
of
crazy.
confidence, but that's just how she is, and she gets stressed out, but she has her process and it prepares her, and then she doesn't mess up.
Yep. Well, and that's the thing. It is your process. You have your little things that make you feel confident that, for me, that I'm not going to do that again. And everybody kind of has their own little tricks of the trade, I guess. Mm-hmm. Some people are just really good at memorizing everything and they just go over it until they get it. Some people like me, like I'll put my vehicle somewhere where I can see it, or, as I'm waiting for them to get to me on the podium, I have all my sponsors on my suit. I have them on my sleeves. I'm kind of mentally going over everything. In my head, I'm not really paying attention to what other people are saying. Mm-hmm. I'm sort of practicing in my mind, who to thank. And then when they get to me, I'm ready. So mm-hmm. Yeah, it's definitely everybody has their own little processes.
Yeah. We've had Tiffany Stone on the show a couple times, and she used to do a lot of the Torque podium interviews. And yeah. We did a whole show on that where we were talking about like how can you prep for stuff, and she gave a number of little examples that she even does to help people, like hey, like this is I'm gonna try to give you leading questions, right? Like I'm gonna help prepare you because I know that there's too much going on right now, and so if people are listening right now and you haven't been on a podium yet and you're nervous about it. If you have someone like a Tiffany Stone there greeting you, they're going to help you a little bit to get prepared for that. They'll make sure the questions are somewhat straightforward and that's good.
It's super helpful. Like and you'll still hear even the most veteran racer. They'll answer some questions about the race. And then the announcer will be like, "So, do you have anybody you need to thank?"
Yeah, yes.
It's like, "Oh yeah,
that's
I do."
Right. Yeah, they do help you along that. Yep. I went and saw a Supercross race last year. I live in Southwest Michigan, so I usually go to the Detroit area Supercross, and they do like a 50 series race in between the big races, and the kids are up there. These kids are like 5 to 8 years old, and they're on the podium, and they're like, they're going through all their sponsors, and the people are helping them, and like, okay, well, do anybody else you want to thank? Like, yeah, HJC helmets, and and then they zone out for a minute, and you can see them. They're like looking around and looking for their mom to give them a little extra guidance, and it's so cool to watch it though. I mean, they get through it, and then you find there's always like that one kid who just nails it. They're like,
oh yeah, he makes me feel like garbage because he's just like right up the top of his head like a little pro, and I'm like, you're 6, and you just killed my podium.
Yeah. I can specifically remember. I think this person, he was either second or third place, and the other kids had gone. Yeah, I think he was third place because the other kids had talked a little bit. And he like takes off his helmet. He's got this long waving hair, and he like rubs his fingers through his hair, and he's like, "I just want to thank such and such and such and such for their excellent product support." And I was like, "Man, dude, like I don't know if you're gonna get first ever, but you definitely can do this podium thing."
Yeah, you got that nailed.
Yeah. I guess I'll just ask one more quick question here in Heat 2 around social media. Because it is a part of what we're all doing. We do talk about it on pretty much every show. There's a lot of examples out there, but I mean, what do you think from your perspective is, the right way, or I guess your way of structuring your social media strategy?
So Jason's actually better at this than I am for social media. I've always had a hard time. I feel like it's self-promotion, which is weird. I sort of struggle with that. Like, if I had to do my own press release, I just kind of downplay things because it just feels, you just don't want to be that boastful, arrogant person that people are like, ew, she's kind of a jerk. So it's been a struggle for me to, get on the social media platform at the extent that like Jason's so good at it. He's just like content and posting.
Mm-hmm.
And we've got some really good friends that are very good at this whole social media thing, who have taught us a lot too. But so for me, it's harder to post things because I don't want to be the, hey, look at me, look what we're doing today person.
Yeah.
On a personal level, yet that's what companies love to see, because you're posting about their products and their products are included in these posts, and that's what you need to do that, to especially use social media as such a great tool that it is. So I just personally kind of have that struggle where I'll I know content is key. There's whole like things you can get into as far as timing of posts and time of day and promoting and who to target and all that. I mean, it gets super technical and
Mm-hmm.
sciencey. But mostly for me, I personally, again, try to just be organic, and I try to post things that are truly happening, that, I truly think somebody might be interested in, rather than try to force feed my feeds with things just so I have content.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if that's the right way to do it. I really don't. It's just how I do it. And, I don't grow as fast as a lot of other, athletes do as far as my accounts and things like that. But I do love everything that I get. Like I have, I don't know, I think I'm just getting close to 15,000 followers on Instagram, which,
Mm-hmm.
if you look at other people, that could be really good or it can be really, really bad. But it's growing all the time, and they're true followers. I get followers because they want to see what I'm posting. And so, I just try to kind of stay real with who I am and try not to force feed the social media thing, too much,
Mm-hmm.
to where I'm feeling uncomfortable. I feel like it's just forced. So,
Yeah.
again, Jason's a lot better at that. He does that stuff all the time. He's got so much content. And he doesn't view it like the way I do. And so, we kind of have a little bit differing styles in social media, but that's just kind of how I do it. And I think maybe, if your sponsor is giving you feedback like, hey, I'd like to see more of this, or please, can you post some of this? And that's fantastic. Or if I'll ask sponsors, what do you want to see? What would you like to see on my social media? That's a big help too, because then they're just telling you directly, hey, we'd love to see more posts of this, or I like it when you do this, or we love videos, or so the more feedback you can get from your sponsor, they'll just tell you what they want to see, and that makes it easy. So.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good point. If you can just ask and get the answer,
Mm-hmm.
great.
Yeah.
One less thing to think about.
Yeah, what am I doing wrong? What am I doing right? The more of that you have throughout your season, the more you'll learn each other anyway. So.
Yeah, definitely. Well, that's good. I did want to cruise through the main event. That's where we talk about mindset. So we'll just do a question here, maybe two questions. But a fun one that I do like to ask is, if you could sponsor any athlete in the world, who would you choose and why would you choose them?
Okay, so on the social media thing, I have been blown away by this person's social media savvy and content. And I would like to think he's doing all of his own stuff. I'm not 100% sure.
Mm-hmm.
But Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, I don't know if you follow him.
No, I don't. My wife does.
He's fantastic on social media. Like, the things he posts is so interesting. Like, every post he does is just like, oh, this guy's so good. And plus, whatever he touches seems to be gold, because he's just super successful. He's, everything he does, everybody likes him. He's such a likable personality. I don't know if you would consider him an athlete per se. Is wrestling, I guess it's a sport, so he's an athlete.
Yeah, I'll accept it.
Yep, I would put Weller Racing all over Dwayne Johnson.
People copy Dwayne Johnson like crazy. I'm trying to look him up right now. There's like 45, the official Dwayne "The Rock." He's only got 2,000 followers.
You have to get the one with the blue check mark.
Holy cow! Yeah, there's these new things. They put these little blue circles. It's not have a check on it. Like, man, this is weird. So
yeah.
now that you brought that up, someone whose social media that I actually don't even follow it, but again, my wife does, and my wife shares the stuff with me, is Will Smith. Will Smith does these cool little video snippets, and obviously he's a smart guy. He used to be a rapper, so he can say things pretty clever on the fly. But he is hilarious too, and he'll do these little video skits, and they're legitimately good. So I always like that from a social standpoint. And then another person that always comes to my mind when I think about like social media savvy is Amy Hood. Amy Hood, she's been doing the MX thing, and does the talk radio a lot, but she just has pretty like natural social media feeds. I think that's pretty cool stuff.
I love it. I admire that, and I wish, like, I'm pretty shy. I'm actually super shy. So I love people like that. Like, I love following people that are just, I love the personal aspects that they put in their posts. Like the racing stuff's all cool, but I want to see the personal stuff, like parts of their personality and just, them being them. And I love that. And I feel like, that's probably something that, my fans might want to see too, but I'm just so shy. It's so hard for me to do that. So I just totally admire anybody that can do that and do it so well. I love to watch people like that on like Instagram.
Yeah.
They're just so good at it. I envy that.
One thing that I struggle with is, I think one is time, which I think everybody struggles with that around getting a post up. But I think of like, nobody's going to want to see this. That's what goes to my head, right? Like, nobody cares.
Nobody cares about this.
We just, I always get confused as when I'm going to release episodes because I pre-record a lot of them. But I'm pretty sure that this episode will already have released that I'm going to refer to by the time yours comes out. But I had Mike Ziebert on the podcast, and he's a backcountry snowmobiler and a freestyle snowmobiler. And he just recently posted this video up of him loading his snowmobile into the back of his truck. And he used a pretty unique method for doing it. But like he told me, I posted it thinking just like, whatever, nobody's going to care, but I just need some content today and haven't really put anything up. So he put this video up. It's all grainy and like, I think it might have had a Snapchat filter on it. I don't know. And this thing, it went viral. It had 300,000 views in like a couple of days. And he's like, this is the best post I've ever had. He said, people are blowing up my phone constantly, asking me about this setup. And, now people are making fail videos about it. I was like, man, you don't even, I would have thought like, who cares? I'm rolling the sled up. Nobody cares about that.
Yeah.
That was his most popular.
That's people though. You can't predict. I've posted some pretty normal mundane stuff to me too. And yeah, I'm shocked at what turns out to be some of my best posts or the most popular liked or whatever, I'm like, really? That?
Mm-hmm.
So you almost have to just kind of give up on trying to think of assuming what people are going to like. And again, just be yourself. And I wish I could take my own advice and do that. And that's kind of one of my goals for next year is to just try to do that a lot more. Just kind of let it go and be myself and put that out there a little bit more. Because like I said, I love seeing that in other people's, posts. And so I would assume it'd probably be the flip side, it'd probably be the same. But people are very hard to predict. So you just got to kind of do your own thing and see what happens.
Oh, sounds good. Well, I'm just going to have one more question for you, and then we'll close things out. What's next for you? What's on the horizon? I think that's important from the sponsorship world, thinking about what the future might hold. And I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah. Well, next is 2019 race season. I am going to be racing a Can-Am again with Can-Am in the National Series in Lucas. I'm going to try to get over to the Midwest again because I really enjoy the tracks over there and it's fun to race against, different competition. Jason, I think, is also going to be racing, not in my class. So it's probably going to be really similar to 2018. I'm shooting for, as many wins and championships as I can get because I like those, and championships are fun. Weller Racing is growing. So at home, we're so busy with the shop. We've got a lot of new cool stuff coming out. So that's exciting all by itself. But yeah, just, getting a new car built, a couple of new cars built, and moving forward, and a lot of driving and staying in the toter and, basically just doing what we do and just being super, super busy. And, again, our goal is always get a couple more championships next year and make our sponsors proud and make them happy that, that they're working with us and happy that they took a chance on us. And that's the ultimate goal for all of us, I think.
Oh, that sounds good. And hey, if you have too many championships, you're like, I don't really know what to do with these things, I don't know where to put them, send one my way. I'll gladly act like I won the championship doing something, whatever it is. Whatever the easiest class might be to win. There's probably none that are easy, but send it my way and I will prominently display it.
I will do that. You'll have to put it on social media, though.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And I got really millions of followers. I don't like to tell people that, but it's really in the millions. So we should definitely make this deal.
Okay,
right.
It's a deal.
All right. So at the finish line, we're going to kind of wrap things up. Is there anything that you feel like people just need to take away from the show?
Given that it's about sponsorship, I don't know. I do get to talk to people on the phone a lot, people that call in and starting racing, and they'll call the shop and ask me questions. One of the best pieces of advice I can give is be yourself, number one. Represent yourself to your sponsors, don't try to be who you think they want you to be. That's really important. Look at sponsorship as a business partnership, because that is truly what it is. People always want to know what can a sponsor do for them, but it's really, what are you doing for your sponsor? And if you guys look at it as a business partnership, as a business relationship, that's going to just put you in the right mindset. You're going to ask for the right things. You're going to offer the right things in return. And that's probably the most important thing is sponsorship is truly a business arrangement. And it's good to look at it as such.
Agreed. Well, what's the best way for people listening to connect with you?
Well, social media. Mm-hmm. I have an Instagram under Corry Weller. I have a Facebook page under Corry Weller. I have an athlete page under Corry Weller. At Weller Racing, I'm at the shop every day that I'm not at the racetrack. I'm the one that picks up the phone most of the time. So honestly, if you want to reach me, you can call me at the shop anytime, and I'm there, unless it's a race weekend, and then I'll get back to you. But
yeah. For people listening, it's Corry. Corry.
Right.
The double R could get you. It could get you.
I don't know. My mom was feeling creative that day. She named me, I guess.
Yeah, I'm sure nobody has ever messed that up, ever.
No, never. And they always think I'm a guy.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, it's kind of a boy thing. So, until they meet me, they think that I'm just a dude.
When I was preparing the outline, I was proud of myself that I got that right. I've messed up a number of outlines before. When I send them out to people, I mess up their name, and they're like, "Hey, you spelled that wrong there." I'm like, "Oh no!" But I got this.
It is
right.
correct in its bold red font.
Bold red.
It is 100% correct. So thank you for getting that right.
Well, this is my time to thank you for coming on the show and sharing all your knowledge, sharing your experiences, sharing your journey. But we gotta end it. So I'm gonna leave you with this. Have fun and ride safe.
Thank you.
Thanks for tuning in to this episode of the Sponsored Rider Club podcast, which is powered by AMSOIL. Make sure that you subscribe. That way you don't miss upcoming guests. So we have Nate McLean coming up next. He is a moto dude and a dooner dude. So check that episode out. We talk specifically in that one about what it takes to build an off-road truck that is like beyond what you could initially imagine. So we talk about some of the stresses that comes along with that. And then follow us on social media, specifically our Facebook page. That's where we do our live episodes. we have Jared Heshka of MBRP coming to us live in December. So I'll be excited to bring him back on the show. He's been on twice in the past. To get some insider access to upcoming guests, go ahead and check out the Sponsored Rider Club on Facebook. That's also a good platform to keep up with the best practices in the industry. You can ask questions of other people and say, hey, what do you think about my resume? Or what do you think about the way that I've approached my sponsorship? Feel free to ask away. That's what it's there for. A special thanks goes out to our sponsors, AMSOIL, Neverlift Racing, SolderWeld, Bold Racing, TopThePodium.com, Crash Addict Industries, and I also want to shout out some of our other partners, GSP, XTV Axles, MBRP, HMK USA, and Studboy Traction. I look forward to serving you again next week. Until then, have fun and ride safe.